Before that, we were speaking to social commentator Mal Fletcher about how social media is changing us and how we react to news via social media. I asked Mal what he thought about how false information is affecting people's attitude to science and their own health.
This is, again, not a new problem. I mean, in parts of Africa a few years ago, rumours spread partly on social media, partly in mainstream media, about the dangers of vaccines for things like malaria and Ebola. Caused the virus to spread. The rumours were false, but they caused the virus to spread. So yes, it's an issue. It hasn't gone away. We need to deal with it. When it comes to the specifics of this pandemic, I think there's just enough. There's more than enough. There's a superfluity of information now about the potential of this vaccine, of this infection to kill people, that we don't have any solid grounding anymore for even the suspicion that it's the result of some sort of conspiracy fake news agenda. Where the infection came from, that's still up for debate. But even then, I think we need to be quite measured in the way we approach and wait for evidence to come in. I think there's a lot about COVID-19, Mike, that we won't know until the post-vaccine period has been going for some time, until maybe a year, 18 months from now. There's a lot we won't know until then.
What I don't understand is almost 1 million people have died from this COVID-19. How anybody could stand up and say they believe it's fake is just beyond me. Absolutely beyond me.
Well, that's one of the things about social media that's a concern to me. It's a concern to neuroscientists, that we get locked in these conformational bias information loops online, that the algorithms expose us to what, on the basis of our previous data, they think we want to hear. So we end up in this this never-ending loop of hearing what we already believe. Our biases are confirmed and reinforced. We're not exposed to ideas beyond those that are already fairly entrenched in us. And as a result, we never get to the point of having a truly reasoned thought process on an issue. That is a danger, not only to the issue of something like this contagion, but neuroscientists are concerned that it's reshaping the way that our brains work, so that instead of fight and flight areas of the brain lighting up at the same time as reasoning, we end up with just one side. When we overreact, scanners have shown that when we overreact, fight and flight lights up at the expense of reasoning, where in a normal process, you get both lighting up together to make a decision.
The other big problem is that some people are being affected, their mental health is being affected by social media. First of all, do you agree that that is happening, and what are we going to do about that?
Well, I think it is happening. There's plenty of evidence, goes back more than 10 years now, from studies in the US and Europe and other parts of the world. Things like dopamine addiction. Most people have now heard something about the fact that whenever we go to social media to check on our likes and retweets and so on, we get a little shot of dopamine, this pleasure drug, if you like, that the brain produces. It's often used to keep people awake, for example. It's a very healthy thing in small doses. But if you take enough small doses over a period of time, it has the same cumulative effect as a large dose. So addiction is a problem. Shortened attention spans are a problem. A couple of years ago, the leading judge in England and Wales said that young people today are not very good for jury duty. And he said it's not because they're not intelligent, they certainly are, but it's because they can't follow a long oral argument in a court. They're so used to multi-screening and multi-sensory reception of ideas, they can't stick to just an oral argument. So these are issues of emotional and mental development that are very important. And in terms of turning it around, I think it starts with children. And I think there's certain things we can do with children and young people to better educate them.
A final question, probably. In 10 years' time, will social media still be the force that it is now?
That's a good question. I think it probably will. I think it will take on new forms, though, as new forms of technology emerge. I think one of the next iterations of social media will be what I call sociable media, which is where we apply things like virtual reality technology to social media to give it a much more three-dimensional aspect. As the haptics of VR improve, that is the ability of VR to fool the senses, as that improves, people will be able to don some sort of apparatus and feel like they're actually in a virtual space in real time with real people. And so I might be talking to a friend across the other side of the world and having coffee with them and feel like I'm actually in that environment. Now, we're not there yet, but the technology's going that way. And that would put a whole new degree of both interest and concern when it comes to social media.
Well, Mal Fletcher, futurist and social commentator, can I thank you very much indeed for taking time to be with us once again and wish you all the very best for the future.
Always a pleasure to speak with you, Mike. Thank you.
Good friend of the program, Mal Fletcher, speaking to me earlier this month.